Good morning, students, or afternoon, or whatever time of day it is. This is the part 2 of boats, and this is, again, an introduction to our marine science classes. I did want to thank Miss Pennycook, who's a third grade teacher here, for doing all the work that she's doing so this can come to you. Thank you very much for that, and that's at Elkhorn School. And we're going to be talking today about boats, and we're going to start a very basic beginning of the kelp class that we're going to start getting into. So we're going to continue on boats today. And what we're doing right now is we're going to be looking at, again, a boat. We've talked about the parts of a boat again, but I want to make sure everyone understands the parts. If you're in the stern of the boat, which is the back of the boat, is the stern, and you are going to be going and looking at the left-hand side of the boat towards the bow, that's called the port side of the boat. And if we were looking forward, again, on the right-hand side, that's the starboard side of the boat. And the very beginning, front of the boat is called the bow of the boat. Okay, so we have the stern, the back, the port, which is the left, the starboard, which is the right-hand side, and the front of the boat is called the port. Now, on the front of boats, there is generally on the bow of boats or the front, there's two lights. The red light is on the port side and the green light is on the starboard side. And this is very important for boating, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And this is another frontal view of a boat looking towards the bow as if the boat was coming toward you. And you can see on the starboard side of the boat is a green light, and on the port side of the boat is a red light. Now, again, we're going to be coming to that in a little while. Now, underneath the boat is the propeller, which pushes the boat. Now, in a power boat, there's two things that push boats. There's the propeller, which spins around and pushes water out this way. It sucks water in this way with the engine and then pushes it out this way. Now, the other type of drive is called a jet drive. And a jet drive is generally associated with a watercraft, a personal watercraft or jet ski. Okay, now with a sailboat, the thing that powers a sailboat is a sail, which actually catches the wind and drives the boat. Now, as we said in the last class, the reason the boat doesn't get pushed sideways by the wind is it has a centerboard or a keel. Now, a keel on a boat would normally come all the way down the boat like this. And the keel would be made out of either wood or steel, and it would stop the boat from turning over and also kind of force it to go forward instead of slipping sideways. Now, there's a lot of different parts of a sailboat that are important, but really the sail is probably the most important. And the two parts of the sailboat sail that are the most important parts is the boom and the mast. And those are the two things that hold the sail rigid or so that the wind can catch it. Now, one of the dangerous parts of a sailboat is you have to be careful of is the boom, because as the sailboat will turn and the wind will change, this boom can go from side to side, kind of like this, very quickly. And if somebody was sitting here, the boom could come over and knock them overboard. Overboard means off of the boat, okay? So, and again, sailboat has a bow, a stern, and a starboard and the port. Both of those things are the same as they would be on a power boat. Now, let's take a look at personal watercraft now. Now, the personal watercraft, or a jet ski, as a lot of people call it, because it's powered by a jet. Now, the jet isn't like a jet engine on a plane. A jet is a water jet where it sucks in water and expels it. And we'll take a look at that in a second. Now, some jet skis just have one person that they can carry. And as you can see, this personal watercraft or jet ski can carry 3 people. Now, the jet ski, as you can see, has the steering nozzle or the drive, and this is what expels the water out here. And this turns back and forth, And when this turns in this direction, it shoots the water out this way, and the boat would turn this way. And if the jet turned in this direction, it would push the stern of the boat this way, and the bow would turn this way. Now, instead of having a steering wheel as normally, or a ship's wheel as a power boat would have in many sailboats, this actually has a control kind of like a bicycle where you turn either way. Now, the other thing is we didn't really talk about, but the depth that a boat sits in the water, or the deepness that the boat sits in the water, is called the draft. And this is how much water that the boat has to have underneath it to operate. In other words, if the land was here, the boat would be on the land. So it has to be deep enough to set down into the water and be able to navigate. Alrighty, with a jet on a personal watercraft or jet ski actually has little propellers inside, but this is housed inside a tube, and the water is generally sucked up from underneath the boat. This would be the flat part of the boat, and the water is sucked up by the jet into here, and then it's shot out that nozzle that we said, the steerable nozzle, which actually can turn the boat from one way to the other. So the water gets sucked in here and expelled. And generally, this is a safer type of boat because as far as people being in the water, because there isn't the propeller spinning as there is in a regular power boat. The propeller is one of the most dangerous things on a power boat because it can, if someone's in the water like a skier or a swimmer, it can chop them up and turn, and it can hurt people very badly. And that's why you never want to operate a power boat ever when there's someone in the water. If you have to get someone in the water, there's something called neutral that you can put the boat in. But generally, whenever I'm taking a swimmer in and out of the water, I like to shut the boat off to make sure there's no chance of the propeller cutting them up. Alrighty, so now we're going to be talking a little bit about depth and navigation. And in a boat, there aren't any roads on a boat. Like when you're in a car, you have to go down a lane, and you can see where you're supposed to go. When you're in the ocean or on a bay, it's very hard to tell exactly where you should go. You can't see from the surface of the water if it's deep or shallow. So you could be thinking you're in 100 feet of water, and you could be in a foot of water. So there are what's called navigational markers, and these are some ideas of what they are. There's red and green. So we have red and green, and here's again red and green. Now, there's a little thing called red right returning, which generally is a good way to know. And that means when you're navigating, you keep the red buoy on your right-hand side when you're returning from the ocean. So it's always a way to know which side the buoys are supposed to be on. And generally, the buoys mark the center of the channel. So you're supposed to stay between the two buoys, and then you know that you're in deep water and safe. So that's one way to know. Now, there's also what's called a depth indicator that helps you to tell how deep things are. But again, you might not have one of those. So if you see the buoys, you can always stay in the middle of the channel. Okay, so as we said, on the sea, there aren't any roads or lanes. So generally, we can use sounds by blowing a horn to make our intentions clear. Now, one of the things when we talked about the lights on boat, we said on this side of the boat, there would be a red light, and on this side of the boat, there'd be a green light. So what this tells us is whatever light this boat sees tells us who has the right of way. So when this boat looks here, they see a red light. That means this boat has the right of way. Now, if a boat was over here and it was coming, it would see a green light, which means this boat has the right of way. Now, the rules of the road, I'm not going to go into at this point, but maybe another class. But right now, I want you to know that there are navigational rules on which way you should pass boats and to keep yourself safe. Now we're going to be looking at a film that we just took yesterday, and it's going to be kind of the entree into our kelp class. Students, this is a little video we took yesterday about kelp. Wanted to show you what bull kelp looks like, so we're going to play the video. A little bit's hard to hear because there's a lot of wind, but I hope you enjoy it. We'll see what happens. Okay, so we're out here in the ocean today. We're going to pick up a piece of bull kelp. This is going to be, you'll see this later on down the road. We're going to do a kelp class, but anyway, while we pick this up, I just wanted to show you the ocean is really rough today. Pretty nasty, a lot of wind on it. There's the bull kelp right there, if you can see it.
Mike
So
did this.
He's
pretty adept.
Here. We're coming up on the bull kelp here. We're going to wind up gaffing it. This is a gaff. And then we're going to wind up bringing it in the boat. I think it's going on this other side, so let me get it over here. Generally, it's on the beach. You can probably see this. This is pretty good. Here. You can see the kelp here. All the, just going to get the knife. Got it? So I can take it. So these are all the stipes. The stipe is in my left hand. Here, so I can get it in. So I'm going to cut that like that. Now, this is still really heavy. It's too heavy to bring. So you can see the size of this, and this is kind of something really good for Halloween. So I'm going to cut a little bit of the stipes off, or what we would call leaves, if it was a ground plant. So I'm going to cut this off.
Those are the blades.
It's a little bit long, so I am going to cut this here. That's the stipe. Okay. And the leaves are the blades. Notes full kelp, and you'll see more of this in the kelp class. Thank you. Alrighty, so we're back out of that roughness that we were in out in the ocean. And this is the boat we were at now. This is called the Aladdin, and it's a 22-foot Grady white. Now this is the kelp that you saw me pick up there. And this, I generally like to use around Halloween time, and you can pick these up on the beach. Now these, the stipes and the blades, these are called blades, which we call grass. Now when you touch these on the beach, your hands, you can see how gooey this is? Well, that's kind of, you could say that's yucky, but the thing with that is when you take this and then you rub this on your hands and it dries, your hands stay soft for a couple of days, because this is like they use kelp in cosmetics. So it makes your hands super, super soft, even though it's kind of gross to start with. Now, what we're going to do is this. We're going to cut this up and pretend it was Halloween. So for Halloween, normally what I do is I cut a scary face in it. And we put this outside the classroom. So I generally make eyes. Take a piece out like that, and then I'll make another eye over here, and we'll cut this out just like you'd cut out a pumpkin. With this, it's kind of hard to see where you cut, because the cuts, it seals right back up quickly. But anyway, I'm going to cut this eye out. So we have another eye that we're cutting out here. Trim that up a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect, and you can find this on the beach at low tide. We'll be talking about tides in our current and tide class. So now I'm going to put a mouth in here. Pop this mouth out too. There we have our little scary monster for Halloween. Now, as you can see, it's kind of scary. Yeah. Anyway, and we have here we have the blades. Now this part of the plant you saw me cut was called the stipe, and this is called bull kelp, but it's kind of bulbous. Now, what happens is when we put this out in the sun, it takes about a week or two, and it dehydrates. Now, dehydrates means that all the water comes out of it. And as the water comes out, it dehydrates and starts to look like this. Now this, you can see how much this has shrunk down, and you can see what's happened with the blades. They've all dried out. And again, look at this one. Here's another one. You can see how much this is dehydrated. All the water has gone out of it. And again, primarily, we figure this is salt water, so a lot of times it'll turn a whitish color, and you can get an idea of what bull kelp looks like. Well, thank you so much, and we'll be talking to you soon. Okay, so that was a little bit about bull kelp. Again, the leaves on kelp, what we'd call leaves, are called blades, and the part of the kelp plant that would look like limbs we call stipe. And anyway, we'll talk a little bit about that more in kelp class. And thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, students, and we'll be having our kelp class next.